So here's kind of an establishing shot of what this paint looks like right now. I'm gonna have my overhead lights off for the correction part of it, but I wanted you to see what this paint looks like right now. These are my hot lights that we're looking through right now. So many swirls. There's a lot of water spotting going on. You probably can't pick it up, but so I got a yellow light and I got a white light back there, and you can see the difference between how you see into the paint with each of those lights. There's a good scratch right here. So I am going to turn my overhead lights off to do the paint correction part, and I'll show you what that looks like. So you can see just a little bit more clearly how bad this paint is. This is severe paint. This car is originally from Arizona, so it's got a lot of heat damage as well as just water spotting, scratches, swirls, everything that you can ask for in a paint correction, almost, this car has it. So I'm gonna be working this panel here, which is the front passenger side. And then we're gonna just correct this, and I'm gonna go through 2 stages of paint correction. I may or may not talk much, but I will be doing 2 stages, a heavy cut and then a less heavy cut. And I wanna show you how to get that corrected properly without a lot of holograms and get most of the swirls out of there. I'm not gonna say 100%. I never say 100%, neither should you. I will not be wet or dry sanding. I'm just correcting it with compound. So today we're gonna use the, let me see right there, for step 1 of the paint correction. Swoop around here. And then this will be step 2 of the paint correction. And we're gonna be using the Big Daddy, the Dinosaur, DeWalt, and then the Rupes with the wool. And maybe with my 3-inch flex, same pad, my hybrid, it will have a Meguiar's pad on it. I've already primed the pad. I usually prime the pad, especially on side panels, just because it's easier than to drop a line. I mean, it's not easier, it's just the way I do it. Huge difference already. shelf with my other one. 100. Switch into the DA coarse wool pad on the Rupes with the M100 from McGuire's. You gotta look into the paint, not at the paint. And if you're not taking your time like this, I promise you, you're not getting it done right. You got the main part done. Now you broaden it from there. And again, this is just the paint correction stage. This isn't even the polishing stage. So I'm gonna get my little 2-inch, or not 2-inch, but 3-inch flex and go around some of those other areas. I like to sit on my bench, but sometimes this position is just better on your feet or knees. I'm gonna go back over it 5-inch. That is looking good. That is looking good. Battery's about to die on that one, but that is good timing because I am done with this panel for the paint correction part. So remember, this was just paint correction. This was not polishing. And I know it seems like it took a long time, which it did. I mean, it takes a while, but if you're doing show cars and high-end cars, with almost near perfection paint correction, it's gonna take time. You can't just get it done in 5 minutes. If you are, you're not getting it done right, I guarantee that. A lot of people like to go to wet sanding, wet or dry sanding. And really, that's not really saving you any more time because you're still going through all the steps of multi-step sanding. And you saw I used 2 different pads with 2 separate compounds. And this is where it got me. See if it's picking it up. You can see how clear it is in the paint. And it's not even finished yet. So that's what it looked like, even worse maybe over here. And this is where it's at right now, off of just simply paint correction with compound. Let me see if I can give it a little spray down so you can see it without, make sure there's no greasy prints on it. Panel Prep, Esoteric. That's where I get all my supplies. All my coatings, a lot of my polishes, well, not all of my polishes. I get my polishes in a lot of different areas. But the Meguiar's you can get. I think I got some of those at Harbor Freight. Even. You don't need super expensive. I honestly don't like Rupes. I'm not a big fan of Rupes compounds or polishes for that matter. I think there's way better out there. Rupes is a massive company and it's a great company. They got great products. They got great equipment. They got great pads, but I do not like their compounds. I do not like their polishes. They work, but they're just not as good as some of the others. There you go. Man, that looks good. Bring in this, and I'll turn on the overhead so you can see. So that's how the paint was. I'm just using the lights here. So there that is, minus the polishing stage. You can see how bad. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do the polishing stage just so you can see what I'm working with. Sonax with the yellow DA course pad. Oh, come on. running low on the good stuff. I gotta go get some more. So I'm just gonna do the whole panel with this pad. One reason I use my little mini, A, because I just didn't want to get the bigger pad out and put it on my other pad because that's how lazy I can be. And B, I wanted to show you how you can. I mean, you simply can. If you wanted to use a mini, I wouldn't recommend it for full panels like that. I would do it around the edges, but not in the main big panel part of it because it's just, it takes longer. But I always blow air as I'm wiping it off to get any extra dust out from just off the paint before I wipe it. Light wipes. I would clean out the cracks also as you go, so you don't have to come back later to do it. Jim White from White Detail coined the phrase toothpickery. So grab your toothpicks. I have all kinds of sizes of different toothpicks when we go to restaurants, and you know how you got the burgers, they get those big ass skewers through them. I always save those because they really come in handy for cleaning out the compounds and waxes and whatever other products you have in cracks. So this is polished, compounded, polished. And unless I see anything in the camera, it would be ready for coating. Well, actually, after you wipe it down with the prep, yeah, that looks good. That is how it is done, right there. That's my air compressor in the other room that you're hearing. It's loud and obnoxious. So, this is how you do it. I mean, it doesn't have to be hard. Like, black paint is just difficult in the sense that it does take time. You got to put the time into it. I'm going to go ahead and wipe it with my spray because it looks like there's some. It looks like holograms, but it's not. It's just the grease from the. It's just the grease from the polish. So you get your prep, isopropyl alcohol, IPA, whatever you want to call her. Soft wipes, of course. You don't want to put any real pressure onto it because you just spent all that time making it look as close to new as you can get it. And that's what I always tell my clients. I'm not going to ever say that it's going to be brand new. And again, I'm not wet or dry sanding. I do, but not. I try and do it in small areas, not full cars. Because again, you don't want to sacrifice the clear coat for perfection that's not going to last anyways. What would be the point of that? So that looks good. Again, established paint that was already in horrendous condition to that. And if this overhead light was on, which I'll turn on right now, you would be able to, if you're a woman or man, I guess, you'd be able to do your makeup in the reflection. That's how good that is. So, and again, that's where this lighting, the overhead lighting, becomes very deceptive. Because, I mean, I have my shop lights on, these lights on, but if these were off, it wouldn't look near as bad as it looks right now. Actually, I'll show you that while we're real time in it. Turn these off. And that's where some of these detail shops kind of, they, see, look at that. I mean, you can see how good that looks. But then here's this. You can see it's a little bit cloudier, but so don't just trust everything you see. Don't trust everything you see on the YouTube. Don't trust everything you see on the TikTok, the Instagram, nothing like that. That's a legitimate shot. And I'll show you. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed. I will try and post this video. I know it's hard to edit sometimes. I got 3 different YouTube channels. So, oh, look at that. Dang. That's just crazy. I had to clean off the lens. It was getting dusty, so it made it look like there was holograms, but there are none. And some of those little scratches didn't clean up as much as I would have liked them to, but let me turn these lights on. Again, I think you should always have side lights. You should always have, I call my yellow lights my hot lights. You should always have hot lights, and you should always have white lights, bright lights. So this scratch right here, I don't know if you could see it. I don't even see my finger. So there's a scratch that starts here and goes that way. That was one right in here. You got a little up kick right there. But that sucker is pretty impossible to see in the daylight. This person who owns this car will never see that. They might see this one here, but the other one they won't see.